is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
To start the second half of the season here in the IMSA Online Sports Car Championship. We'll be heading our way to the circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps, in just a couple of moments' time. This is one that you don't want to miss because of that stacked field. See you in a bit.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Spa, the Belgian racetrack where dreams are made and driving pleasures are sustained. The IMSA Online Sports Car Championship here on the iRacing service gets itself underway in just a couple of minutes' time as we tick down in qualifying. But I am Connery Maddock, and joining me once again this week will be Stephen Burbage. We have camera work by Hugo Luis, TV cameras by Istvan Ballo, overlay design Andreas Werner, development done by Simon Grossman of Actioneering.com, and our live timing is provided to us by Nick Disson. And Stephen, this track is just an absolutely amazing track. I don't think there's going to be a person in the world that dislikes this racetrack, Spa. So historic, and I hope that we're going to get a very, very fantastic race here today.
I'm expecting an exciting race, and the beauty about Spa is it's one of the few tracks that have maintained its flow, its pattern. Outside of the final chicane, it's still an extremely fast and flowing circuit, and it's something that's becoming a bit of a rarity today. So really looking forward to this, and I think that's why everybody looks forward to this circuit, and expecting an exciting race following up from last week's just wild finish.
Oh yeah, last week was just absolutely insane. A backwards finish from Johan Harth, and then Alex Simonich passing 2 cars in the final chicane in GTE to take the race win there. I doubt we'll get something similar to that here today. If we do, that would be absolutely brilliant as well. But you see the top 3 in qualifying right now. Your Daytona prototype is going to be Johan Harth, then Juan Ignacio Yordura there, as I'm going to completely butcher that pronunciation. There's Marco Lenz there in P number 3. Keika Shube, Benjamin Gonzalez, and Kazuki Mishima, your top 3 in GTE. And then in GT3, Jeff Van Genecken, we've got Will Trigurtha and Josh Thompson there. And one thing that I alluded to during my introduction, Stephen, is how stacked this field is, and there's one field in particular. It's GTE's 6,300 strength of field. That's the average I rating of everyone in that field.
Yeah, and that's not a weak strength of field for those that are maybe not familiar with that designation, maybe coming in as a first-time viewer of this series. And really what that means is we're going to have extremely tight, extremely close racing. The draft here is just huge, especially down the Kimmel Straight and heading through Blanchimont. Just great areas to set up and save fuel for one, and that's going to be a big deal here today.
Yeah, exactly. Could well be, as we'll see a couple of cars just coming towards the end of their laps right now. We're going to see Kei Gashube there through Kuon up towards Lafania in that Ford GT GTE, and this is one of the places where the Ford's going to be pretty good through the Lafania chicane. And right now, he's got about 0.3 of a second gap back to Benjamin Gonzalez, so not currently under threat late on in this qualifying session. We have Rico Alatalo, the number 9 machine, heading his way across the line to set a lap time, currently in P number 16 overall. Unfortunately for him, does not improve on that particular lap. P number 11 in class, it has to be for the Finnish driver. Marco Barbanera abandoning his, well, not abandoning, he's just getting onto the Cal straight right now, but the thing is, he's not got enough time to complete his qualifying lap, so he will stay right at the back of the field then in that Daytona prototype field. Thomas Gibson not going to come out anytime soon either, as that clock will tick down to 0. That is going to be the end of qualifying, and this is going to be your qualifying grid here at Spa. In Daytona prototypes, it is Johan Hart once again taking pole position by 1.261 seconds. Absolutely brilliant time there from the French driver. Kim Salverson will get himself P number 2 in the dying moments of qualifying, with Jan Gorduka there in P number 3, and Marco Lennis will join him on that second row of the grid. We've got Zachary Levey there, the driver from New York, 2.7 seconds behind your class leader Forney there, P number 6, no time set, and no time set for the rest of these drivers either. Bailey Fletcher starts P number 7. Marco Barbanera, though, starts P number 8, right at the back of this Daytona prototype field. Look at him to see if he decides to wake his way up through the field, but GTEs is where all the talking points are going to be. Kei Gashube out qualifying Benjamin Gonzalez there by 0.3 of a second. Kazuki Umeshima and Kitara will make up the composition of row number 2. Cycling things back, row number 3 will consist of Denis Grabowski and Vincenzo Silvestri. Peter Similek and Sota Muto will bring things down to P number 3 in the GTE grid. Nestros Kiosklu and Bruno Fontalbo will bring things down to P number 10. Rico Alatalo, P number 11. Yolguez, P number 12. Gerard Caroni, P13. Scott Brazier, 14th. Jorge Valls, 15th. Luigi Nespolino, 16th. These are all names that can absolutely get themselves towards the front of the field. Thomas Gibson, with no time set, will start in the 17th position. Then looking back into your GT3 field, Alex Simonich pole position, so your GTE race winner last time out is now your GT3 pole position sitter, with Josh Thompson less than 1/10 of a second behind. Then EF Van Genechen, we've got Will Chagurtha as well, consisting of row number 2. Lemogli lines up in P number 5. Wim Stockman's P number 6. Lawrence Benso and Rene Penquit will bring things down to P number 8, as we'll get the rest of these GT3 runners up on your screen. Finsack, your Skinner as well there, bringing things down to P number 10. Chris Daines, P number 11. Dave Cameron, P number 12. Jan Ball, Marco Fontini and Lewis Ward will complete your entire grid for this evening's race. They've already set off on the pace lap here at Spa-Francorchamps. You can just see there that GT3 field just passed by our cameras, and in the distance there, that GT3 field as the pace car will get itself into that bus stop chicane. The Grand Prix layout is going to be used here for this evening's race. So the start-finish line on the Grand Prix straight, a little bit bumping and banging through the bus stop, but Johan Hart will get on the loud pedal for race clutch. Green flag in the air here in Belgium, and Johan Hart has got a huge jump over the rest of your Daytona prototype field. Judushka now down towards the inside there, coming through La Source. He'll get himself up into P number 2 after starting P number 3. Looking back towards your GTE field though, Kei Gashube leads the way from Benjamin Gonzalez, from Kitara, from Umeshima. Those four will get themselves down into the last source hairpin side by side between Similek and Muto, though, which is on your screen right now. That's furthest forward side by side that we have up there right now. They'll take it side by side, even down towards the Eau Rouge for the first time, but Muto will come out on top. Similek just going to back out of that one as we look back towards your GT3s. They are hot on the heels of your GTE field. Didn't allow the separation all that much, and here comes the run from Van Genechten from P number 2 in GT3. Will challenge for the GT3 race lead, then come towards the end of the Kemmel Straight. It's going to be the last of the late breakers, then down in towards Lecombe. They break exactly the same time. Simonic on the inside for the first apex, manages to squeak his way ahead, but leaves the door open for Van Genechten to come back through up towards Malmedy, and Van Genechten's going to have to wait and maybe fight another day as they head down towards Rivage. They still haven't let the GTE field get away. You can just see exactly how close there, as you see the black and blue GT3 car of Simonic is still on the back of the GTE field. Luigi Nespolino right on the back of that particular train. We're having a little bit of a look though at your Daytona prototype field. Those have spread themselves out a decent amount, but the thing is, like we said at the top of the broadcast even, these GT fields are where GT fields is going to be where most of the fighting is going to be at.
Exactly. It's interesting because compared to last week, we saw, the GT3 was really behaving themselves at the start, and the GTE was just super aggressive. And this week it's the exact opposite. GTE was very quick to get single file, and GT3 was just hugging each other right there at the start.
Yep, they were, as your Daytona prototypes head to complete their first lap here. So one lap already in the books of this 45 minutes race here at Spa. We have one scheduled stop for each of your 3 classes here today, thanks to the fuel limiting in this particular series. And right now, things are rather quiet, at least in Daytona prototype land, but in terms of the GTE cars, Kegashube not getting away quite as much as he perhaps hoped from Benjamin Gonzalez. Kitara still on the back of this one, as well as Umashima, Silvestri, and pretty much everyone else in the GTE field. They're still in one big train on the way down towards Eau Rouge, and this just shows how close this GTE field is to you.
Yes, it is. And further back in GT3, Josh Thompson is not letting Alex Simonic get away. So he is hanging right there and with the leaders, as well as Van Geertsen. I think I said that right. Those 3 are just sitting there waiting for somebody to make a mistake. So the question is, who's going to do what when? And if it goes wrong, is anybody going to take advantage of it like we saw last week?
Here comes Van Genechten then in that AMG Mercedes, has the overspeed, has the slipstream over the Audi in front of him, looks towards the outside line, but does not commit to the move around the outside there for the first apex of Lecombe. Just has to wait, has to be a little bit patient here early on in this event, and he also has to be a little bit concerned about the cars behind as well. Josh Thompson, always an absolutely fantastic driver, and will just hold no punches in terms of trying to get himself further up in terms of those podium positions. We're actually riding on board of his roof cam right now, and he's going to go a little bit wide there through Jackie X corner. And if there's one thing to be said about this track, at least on iRacing, Stephen, is that those off tracks are absolutely vicious. You step 1 foot out of line, instantly it nails you.
Yes, it does. And I think what's really interesting between this battle here with GT3 is the subtle differences in driver behavior between the AMG and the Audi. Because with the Audi being mid-engine and the AMG being front-engine rear-wheel drive, what they can do with the car mid-corner varies, and so that opens up different line opportunities and different ways to attack the corner.
Yeah, it does. Maybe slightly different tactics have to be used in getting through the corners between those 2 different makes and models of car. As that AMG Mercedes, usually, if you ask a lot of people that race in these GT3 cars, a lot more stable than the Audi. Some people say, oh, it just understeers a lot, and some people like that, some people don't. The Audi is the complete opposite. It can absolutely kill you sometimes, especially as you get yourself over some of these curbs as well. Of course, not as bad in recent times with the various balance and performance changes that have gone on to these GT3 machines. They're still riding on board here with Josh Thompson as they get themselves down towards the source for the 3rd time in this race. But right now, this is just a little bit of a game of cat and mouse right at the front of your GT3 field. You see those 4 leading GT3 cars head their way down towards Eau Rouge. It's going to be Audi, Mercedes, Audi, Audi. So Van Knechten, the lone Mercedes here in this particular fight, but he will not be close enough, I don't think, coming down in towards Lecombe. As we have some action going on down further towards the back of your GTE field that we just caught on screen right there. We are on board with Lucio Alatalo, driver of the number 9 Ferrari right now for Glacier Racing. And he's kind of lost the back of Similek and Kioskalu here, but hopefully he can get back into the groove and back into trying to chase those guys down, because we're not used to seeing a driver of his caliber this far down the field solidly mid-pack.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks that if you do get a little bit off your rhythm, it's going to be extremely punishing because it is a high-speed circuit. And again, you know, being aware of those off tracks, I mean, track limits here are very strict. And, you know, some people don't like that, some people do. I think it's a great thing because it forces drivers to be very, let me rephrase that. It forces drivers to be very deliberate in their line choice and careful not to overextend themselves.
Yeah, a little bit of restraint needed for some of these drivers in this race, as we have a little bit of a look at Peter Similek right there, down solidly mid-pack in your GTE field, trying to chase down Kioskalu, but lap times aren't falling his way right now, although he is a little bit closer down into the bus stop this time, but not close enough to be able to sling any move down the inside coming through there. And this Ford is going to be so much better through those medium to high speed corners with the amount of downforce that it has, but that Porsche is going to be so much better coming through slow speed corners like this one of Last Source.
And you're really hitting.
Go on.
Oh, sorry, Connor. You're really hitting there at the different chassis dynamics. The Ford is extremely low slung. That low center of gravity is what helps it in those medium to high speed corners. Whereas the Porsche, I mean, it's rear engine. All that weight is right there on the rear tires to help it plant coming out of the low speed corners.
Yeah, it is, but the overspeed will go to Similek up through Eau Rouge and Radion down the Camel Straight, brings it side by side. And Similek should be able to complete this one on the brakes, and he does so by the time the apex arrives. Kioskalu just having to slot in behind there for that Hellenic racing car, well, the number 7 Hellenic racing car. So that's a position gained there for Peter Similek. I'm just having a quick look back towards the front of your GTE field, because these guys have been pretty close, but Kashube just starting to edge his way out there up front just a little bit. Gap stands at about 7/10 of a second, 7.5 of a second coming through Pouan. So that was a gain, because I saw it at 6.5 of a second, and then I just saw it jump up to 7.5 of a second. That's just the amount of time Kashube gains coming through Pouan against his fellow Ford GTE in Benjamin Gonzalez, as Katara also dropping off the back of this one. He is at risk of losing the draft to the cars ahead, as it's basically an entire Ford GTE train right at the front of this GTE field. I count the first 6 cars, all Ford GTs. Sotamuto, the only car, number 7, that is a Porsche there, or at least a leading running Porsche. So Ford GT is looking very, very, very strong at this track.
Yes, they are. And what's interesting is further back in the GT3 field, you've got a much tighter pack up front. It's only 4 cars versus 7, but they're much closer together and still within striking distance of each other if somebody makes a mistake.
Exactly. The chat will quite helpfully remind us that this particular version of the Porsche 911 RSR is actually more mid-engines than its other 911 counterparts there, but it's still it's still something that you can note in terms of this one. But I'm kind of surprised about how this race has gone so far. There haven't been that many big fights, that many big battles. Everyone just chilling out right now, happy to be in the positions that they're in. Just having a look on board with Peter Similek right now. This is a trained driver, though, that has been making moves in this event, and he's going to look to make yet another one on Thomas Gibson this time, coming down towards Lecombe. Looks to the outside, but unfortunately not going to happen for him, as there's battling going on ahead between Alatalo and Kioskalu, and Alatalo has managed to get himself a position here. That's absolutely fantastic for him. Gerard Peroni and Jorge Valls there They're battling, heading their way through Malmedy, and it's going to be Crony going for the outside line in his Ford around Rivage, and this one's going to be a particularly tricky one to pull off, but he holds his line on the outside though, which allows him to get the inside line for Jackie X. Corner has to be so careful, shoves Vals out to dry. Vals has to slam on the brakes to stop him from hitting the barriers, but he manages to get away with it and managed to not come away with too much damage. We'll have a replay up on screen for you now, and I think there was too many liberties taken there from that Ford on the inside coming off the corner. He's just run out of road, is Vals.
Yeah, it's a little bit of overdriving by Corona. He gave it a little too much going through the mid corner and tracked out a little further than I think he was anticipating. But just the hats off to the save though. That could have gone really wrong, caught the car behind very easily, so props there to Vals just for saving what could have been a lot worse.
Jorge Vals though has to drop right to the back of that GTE field, so he has he does have time to work himself back from this position. But have a look at your overall race lead right now, because Kim Salverson out of nowhere is attempting a move over Johan Half down in towards the com. They will go Half on the inside, struggling to get that car stopped. Salverson trying to find an alternate line through the corner that'll work for him. Gets the overspeed into Malmedy. No opportunity for him to sling himself down the inside though. But Salverson over these past couple of laps, he has really put the work in, and now Half is under threat, so this won't be an easy win for Johan Half like it was last week.
No, it's definitely a very different pace for Johan Half as far as the competition that he's got to face this week versus last week. But I think it's good. When you don't have the challenge right there behind you, sometimes you get a little complacent, sometimes you get a little sloppy. And this forces him to stay on his A game and keeps him from kind of falling in that rut.
Exactly. So Salverson, he's just absolutely hounding the back of that race clutch car ahead, and you can just see how much he's overdriving the car. He had a little bit of a slide coming through the latter part of the Lafania chicane, so Salverson definitely putting in 110% out there on track right now. And why wouldn't you with a 45-minute race, because tires aren't that much of a factor. You don't even take them during your scheduled stop, so you do have a little bit more leeway with how you abuse the tires here in this series. A fantastic amount of speed taken there by Salverson coming through Blanchimont. Gestures towards the inside for the bus stop, but not willing to go for the dive bomb just yet, as he's... I don't know about the behavior of that car, Stephen, but I think it's looking rather squirrely and rather aggressive in terms of oversteer.
Well, I think the pressure's getting to Johan a little bit. I mean, you saw him, he went into the corner a little hotter than he's been the last few laps, and he's really getting on that ragged edge. But kind of like what we saw last week, when drivers start getting more over on that edge, they tend to be more prone to make mistakes, and things can go wrong very quickly. So it'll be interesting to see, as Salverson keeps putting pressure on Johan, whether or not Johan's going to crack under pressure.
Yeah, Johan Half having a race this week instead of the Sunday drive that he had last week at Montreal. Spa being a little bit of a more popular track with the iRacing masses there in that Daytona prototype community, but Johan Half will still lead the way for now, albeit with a very reduced gap to what it once was, 0.6 of a second between himself and Salverson at this moment in time. I'm just having a quick look back towards your GT3 field, in fact, to try and see if we spot any particular battles in that particular class. Alex Simonich still leads this one in GT3s, but still doesn't have all that much of a gap over Van Genechten. And in fact, just looking at the time, Simonich is slightly pulling away from him at this stage. So one of the important points here is actually being able to break that draft. Maybe not so much in GT3s, but in terms of the Daytona prototypes and the GTEs, the draft block is pretty good in those cars. Not as good as it once was, especially in these GT3s, when you could just sit behind someone and just get a huge slingshot over them. That did get reduced a very good couple of months ago, but it's still a factor, especially with how much time you're on 100% throttle at this track.
It is, and it's also one of those things you want to set up if you want to drive up onto somebody into one of these heavy braking zones, because the long straights do have those, chicanes and bus stops right there coming up to them. So big braking zones right for long straights, great place to set up for a pass.
All about setting up for the pass, but no one is quite able to, at least at the front of these particular fields that we have here today. Johan Harf and Kim Salvesen battle for the overall race lead. Still pretty close, but Salvesen's car has been just so twitchy throughout the 8 laps that we've had so far. I'm really fearing that he's going to end up in a barrier at some point over the course of this race with how twitchy that car has been, but he's able to carry so much more speed up through Eau Rouge and Radion that he can get the overspeed coming down towards Lacombe as well. You can just see him close up down the Kemmel Straight, but not close enough this time, as they will get themselves through there. As looking back to your GT3s, in fact, we do have the number 21 car of Will Tregurth there, and Tregurth is one of those drivers that does have a lot of success in the real-life racing side of things. Of course, was a UK Ginetta Junior championship driver, and going on to other things since then as well. So he has that real-life experience. He can take onto the simulated track as he gets very, very close to the back of the Radicals Online driver of Josh Thompson there. But Tregurth running pretty well at this stage.
Yeah, Tregurth has been after Thompson for quite a while now. I've been watching him earlier on in the race. And Tregurth is trying to apply the pressure, but he's overdriving a little bit too much on entry, and that's where Thompson is starting to kind of scamper away. So the question is can Tregurth still apply the pressure, but rein it in a little bit so he's not burning up the tires so much and losing so much time down the straights that follow?
Up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Run's going to be equalized between those two cars there, so they won't be battling down in towards Lacombe, not by quite a margin. As this first stint of the race been relatively quiet, you have to say, even though we did have 40 starters to this event, but we do have that scheduled stop to be concerned about as well, which can very, very, very easily shake things up, especially in close battles like you have for your overall race lead right now. Do you decide to come down a little bit earlier, maybe actually put a little bit less fuel in than you're comfortable with and try and get that jump in the stops, and then try to save right to the dying moments of the race and try to defend the track position while doing so as well? We saw how that how that fared for Jack Sedgwick leading the GTE race last time out, so maybe that isn't the best option, but it's still quite a while right now before these Daytona prototypes actually hit bits of lap traffic, since this is such a long racetrack. They're doing 2-minute laps even in these prototypes, but here comes Kim Salvesen then down towards Lacombe, actually going to lift out of that one, going to have a little bit of a wiggle on the brakes, but he's going to stick himself behind just for now. And that's what I touched on, Stephen, was an important thing to note. These guys aren't going to have the nightmares with traffic like they had at Montreal.
Right, and there's a lot more room here, so when they do run in traffic, there's going to be better places to kind of set up that pass, and to allow faster traffic to come by from the other classes. So it shouldn't be quite the difficulty or the hazards that we saw last week. Of course, it's interesting, you were talking earlier about the similarities in terms of the race pace from last week and this week in terms of how the race is going. You got Gonzalez now once again sitting P2 in GTE with a healthy gap from P1, but also a healthy gap to P3. So he's again once in the middle. So it'll be interesting to see when everybody starts going through pit cycles if he's going to go through a similar plan to try to avoid as much traffic as he can with his pit strategy this week.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing he really benefited from last time out, just pitting at the right time. We did think it was maybe a little bit early for GTEs at Montreal, at least with his pit stop compared to everyone else's, but it really did end up working well because of the traffic that the GTEs were starting to deal with. So if you can do the same again today, that will be an absolutely fantastic thing to witness. But the thing is, like we've already mentioned, traffic not a big issue in this first 20 minutes of this race. But Johan Harf and Salvesen still stuck together like glue coming through the bus stop, but the run will go to Harf as they come across the line to complete lap number 9 up onto lap number 10. 25 minutes remaining, and still that race clutch driver ahead in terms of the overall race lead, but he's got company this time at least, Stephen.
Yeah, and what's interesting is now GT3 has split up quite a lot now. There's a substantial gap between 1, 2, 3, and 4, so they're no longer fighting with each other and sitting in each other's draft like we saw them earlier in the race. So it looks like...
Go on.
Go ahead.
No, answer you. But here we go. Salverson, again, close, but not close enough down in towards Lacuma. And I think one of the things that Salverson might be doing here is just playing a little bit of a game with the fuel, just trying to save, just save fuel sitting behind Johan Half, and that might result in him being able to take less fuel on the stop, so you can get a slightly quicker pit stop time and make that jump in the pit stop cycle without having to save fuel in that second stint. So that could be the strategy card that Salverson's playing right now.
Well, that's one part of the card. The other part of the card is the less fuel you carry, the less weight you have, and that's going to give you an advantage, especially when it comes to corner speed. Because, you know, it may not sound like a lot, but if you get a couple of tenths of a mile an hour faster through the corner than your competitor, that's going to give you an edge down the straight.
Yeah, and that slight edge is sometimes all that matters in battles as close as this one. There's slightly different lines there taken by the two drivers coming from the Fania, but otherwise everything will be absolutely fine. We're just having a little bit of a look back towards that GTE battle involving Kazuki Umeshima. We've got Kitara, we've got Silvestri involved in this one as well. All 4 GTs except for that lone Porsche right at the back of the train. Absolutely nose to tail then heading their way through Rivage, but no changes of position just yet, just pressure being applied to the back of Kazuki Umeshima. He did set a lap time about half a tenth of a second faster than Kitara that last time by, but Silvestri is also a very quick driver in this train as well.
Johan Hart just came down to pit lane.
That's a very, very interesting one. So Johan Half, first of your pitters in your Daytona prototype, so that could shake up this field a little bit. How long will Kim Salverson go compared to Johan Half? So he has to go at least one more lap, but will he go the 2 extra laps? Marco Lenz also stays out here. Jorduka also staying out. Zachary Levay not diving down on towards the lane either. Johan Half, actually, I'm going to say Marco Barbonera bringing things down on towards the lane. So only Johan Half and Barbonera coming down there for the Daytona prototype. So this is a little bit early for the race clutch driver, but I'll be very interested to see how this one works out, because I don't think this was a traffic influence decision at all. The Daytona prototype's still quite a ways off of lapping your GT3 machine. So maybe Kim Salverson has actually just saved enough here. So I'm not entirely sure what is going on with the strategy here. Maybe Johan Half is maybe looking to get rid of that pressure from behind so we can actually focus on the road ahead and try and get those fast lap times in. Is that what we're seeing here?
That's what I'm thinking, because, I mean, we saw when he was getting the pressure from Kim Salverson, he was overdriving the car, he was burning up the tires, and he was probably feeling that as he was going around the circuit. He's like, you know, I gotta get him off me, I need some fresh rubber, maybe I get some clean air, kind of get back in my groove, I can still win this thing. But I think he was realizing he was starting to crack under the pressure a little bit and didn't want it to completely ruin his race.
Oh, Kitara and Umeshima battle for P number 3 in your GTE cars, and Umeshima manages to defend that move that Kitara had attempted on him, but they'll continue on down towards Rivage, because Silvestri and Grabowski now they're deciding to have a little bit of a scrap coming through the middle part of the lap, coming towards the middle part of the lap then. So this GTE pack starting to show a little bit of promise, show a little bit of flair in terms of the battles that could go on in this particular section of the racetrack. But for now, they'll just have a little bit of a divide in terms of how this train is going. So the front 2 will start to break themselves away from the rear 3. But I think these guys will close up with the help of the draft. Close eye on Kim Salverson. He's actually gone for yet another lap over Johan Half here as well. So that's +2 laps for Kim Salverson, +2 laps for Lennis and Jorduka and Fournet as well. So this is looking to be a very, very, very early stop from Johan Half.
I was a little surprised Kim didn't pit, because he is sliding the car around a little bit more. So, which tells me that his tires are starting to give way, and that's going to cost him time too, because the Daytona prototypes the C7s don't seem to like sliding around too much, and it seems to be really hard on the tires when they do that. So I'm curious to see if he'll pit next time by, or if he's going to try to stretch it out longer.
Yeah, that 13.1 is actually almost exactly 1 second slower than his previous lap, so we might still see Johan Hart get himself ahead once Kim Salverson comes in, depending on how long that stop time is for the driver of the number 25, and he is just sliding everywhere. There was, that car doesn't seem to be very, very stable at all, and one of the things, and again through Le Font, you just see him power sliding, leaving tire tracks in the asphalt. That can't be doing any good for his tire heat. Maybe the tire wear, of course, is less of a factor because it's a 45-minute race, but he is overheating the tires by driving the way he is right now, and his lap times are starting to drop off.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, and maybe he's trying to push because he knows Johan Hart is already pitted, and he's trying to make up the time, and it's working against him.
Could be the case. We'll have to keep a close eye on whether he comes on in this time by to get his one and only pit stop service done. Down into the bus stop he will go. Does he gesture towards the pit lane, or does he stay out? He does stay out another lap here, does Kim Salverson. So, maybe it was a little bit of fuel saving behind Johan Hart. We'll have to wait until we see whether Marco Lenz brings himself down on towards the lane. He actually does not, so he's able to go one more lap as well. Same with Jan Rolduca as well. So I don't know whether this early stop's going to work for Johan Hart, because look at where he is right now. He's actually trapped behind Billy Fletcher, who's only just now deciding to head his way down on towards the lane. So that's going to be a little bit of lost time here for Johan Hart. He actually sets a 1:13.1 on that last lap compared to Kim Salverson's 12.7. So that's time lost there from Johan Hart. He might not be leading this race once Salverson makes his stop, which would be absolutely crucial for the 25's race with how his car's been behaving right now, because, I don't know, would he rather defend with a car like that or attack with a car that's stepping out all over the place?
Well, I think with Salverson, he is seeing that Johan is not gaining on him, so he's like, the car's probably not driving ideally. He's having to work a little extra. He's losing a little bit of time than where he'd like to run, but he's still staying ahead. And he might be playing that fuel game. The less he has to take in that second stop, the more advantage he's going to have in the later stages.
We're starting to see your GTE cars come down towards the lane. We have Junya Katara, we have Kioskalu, we have Scott Brazier also deciding to head their way in. Those are the only 3 cars, though, in GTE that have decided to get that pit stop service done on this particular lap. So we'll have to see what happens with the rest of your GTE field, because curiously, Keika Shube is actually very, very close behind Billy Fletcher in that Daytona prototype class that did come down in that last time by. So maybe a little bit of traffic that these prototypes are starting to fall back into, as we have the GT3s coming down on towards the lane as well. And this is your GT3 race leader of Alex Simonich. We have Van Genechten as well in with Josh Thompson, with Tragurtha as well. So the top 4 in GT3s are all down on towards the lane, all stopping in their pit boxes, and no tires being taken from all of these guys. I suspect we haven't seen it all season, and why would you with a 45-minute race? Simonich gets off the lane first, same with Van Genechten, P number 2, Josh Thompson, P number 3, with Tragurtha getting off of the lane in P number 4, as we have, there we go, overall race leader down on towards the lane. This is a crucial pit stop for Salverson, Stephen.
Yes, it is. So now we're playing, everybody's looking at the clocks, because we're going to see if Johan Hart is going to be able to get back P1, or is Silverstone going to be able to come out ahead of Johan Hart.
Looking at the stop times, 10.1 seconds by Johan Hart. Is it going to be shorter or longer for Kim Salverson? It's going to be slightly longer. Where is Johan Hart? He's already made his way through the last source hairpin. He's dealing with GT traffic at this moment in time, and he's actually got a pretty decent gap there over Salverson. So that must have been an absolutely horrible in-lap there for the driver of the number 25, because just looking at this one, Johan Hart has a gap of getting towards 4 seconds. So actually, I take everything back. That worked out very, very well for Johan Hart. Salverson has a lot of work to do now if he wants to challenge for the race lead. But the thing is, speaking of the race lead, at least the race lead in GTE, they are on the lane.
Most of them are, yes. What surprised me out of the ones that are what has been happening with GTE the last few laps is that Sorry, I just lost my place. I apologize, Connor.
It happens. It does happen to the best of us. As Kei Gashube gets himself stopped in his box, Gendron Gonzalez, Umeshima, Mutu, you got Simelekin, Galatalo, Caroni, Gibson, Espelino, Vals. Pretty much everyone there, everyone of note in this GTE field has decided to head their way in. But the thing is, names that haven't decided to head their way in, Denis Grabowski and Vincenzo Silvestri, they have gone the one extra lap in terms of this one, so watch out for them when they come in. But Kitara going for the move on the, well, the number 3 car, the move through, oh my god, move through Eau Rouge and Radion. Kitara managing to get himself ahead of Kazuki Umeshima there. That was a brilliant move there, coming through one of the hardest corners to overtake in the entire world. Wow, that is insane.
That is just absolutely insane. And just the margin between the wall and his 4GT was just incredibly tight. I mean, that had to be done perfectly, otherwise it would have been disastrous.
We'll see the replays up on screen for you now. You see Kitara behind Umeshima here with the overspeed down in towards Eau Rouge. Oh my word, that is a brilliant pass there from the driver of the number 3. It's just absolutely brilliant stuff. We'll see it once again. Kitara.
It looks like Umeshima gave it to him a little bit. You see him kind of lift just to set up for the second part of Eau Rouge and the Radion. He was probably trying to play it safe. He's like, you know, we still have 15 minutes left. It's silly to take ourselves out at this point.
Yeah, exactly. On board with Umeshima during that pass. You see him like on that rear view screen just dive down towards the inside and up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Just absolutely nothing that because Umeshima could have done, arguably. As we'll get ourselves back to the live pictures then. This same battle is up on your screen right now, but Kitara is just starting to pull himself away in this one. We do have someone going down on towards the lane there. That is Vincenzo Silvestri.
I'm surprised he stayed out as long as he did, because he was struggling earlier on, and that's what I was trying to get to earlier, Connor. I'm sorry for losing my spot. He was struggling with traffic. I mean, he was trying to make moves, but then he started falling back in the last 3 or 4 laps. So I was surprised to see him stay out longer than the rest of the GTE field.
Yeah, as you see, that rest of the GTE field heading their way through the exit of the bus stop. Where will Gabrovski and Silvestri file out in terms of this one? You see the pack of cars, they're battling, hitting their way down the pit straight right now. They're just getting themselves off of the lane. Gonzalez managing to squeak himself ahead of Gabrovski, and Gabrovski will fall back off of this one. Simply doesn't have the speed thanks to coming off of pit lane, just sits within the slipstream there. So that is going to be Gonzalez just managing to secure his position ahead after Gabrovski came down towards the lane, but Gabrovski is not done here. That draft is working wonders down the Kemmel straight. Inside line is going to be left open from Gonzalez, and Gonzalez just going to let him go.
I think that's probably the smart move, because Gonzalez has been out on his tires a little bit longer. There's a little more heat into him, and he doesn't want to overheat the tires at this stage. He wants to keep the tires cool, and that way he can push when he really needs it.
Kitara and Umeshima having to go defensive then in towards reverse. Kitara looking around the outside. Umeshima managing to get himself back past in the recent couple of corners, but Kitara trying to fight back, goes over the curb through Jackie X corner, losing the traction of the car just a little bit, but you know, he's going to be still in this race, not going to hit any barriers coming through there, as this Umeshima and Kitara battle is going to be, if this continues, this is going to be absolutely fantastic. You know, both, well, I know Umashima's from Japan. I think Kitara, I believe he's from Japan. He's somewhere from, you know, he's from Club Asia, so he's obviously in that sort of region of the world, but still, absolutely fantastic battle between those two.
Yeah, and I mean, they're just putting on quite the show. It's a back and forth, and that's the one thing race fans always love to see.
Yeah, it definitely is. Down towards Blanchimont they will go then. Kitara, you know, he can set up for moves coming through this corner if you take much more mid-corner speed, or if you're able to take much more mid-corner speed, but those are going to be pretty equal. Coming through the fast left, down onto the brakes, into the bus stop now. Sotamuto is not too far out of this battle. In fact, it locks right onto the back of this battle in that wonderfully coloured Porsche RSR there. You know, the pink, the yellow, the blue. That is that reminds me of the car I ran in the Max Band series. You know, just like like the week 13 race. I ran something like that, and it's good to see a rather eccentric paint scheme here in the IMSA series.
Yeah, I mean, those colors are something you would see like in the 70s and 80s, and to be honest, I miss that a little bit. The interest in experimenting with colors you don't really see. I mean, so much nowadays it's red, blue, black, and that's the palette that so many teams are choosing from. So to see the bright colors that we maybe saw, 20, 30 years ago or 40 years ago, it's great to see those make a resurgence.
Yeah, it is. So somewhat of a resurgence here in the IMSA series. There's battle for P number 3 in your prototype field going on right now. Fournier there, Fournier, or however you want to pronounce that. I'm not a French speaker, I do apologize. Being chased down by Marco Lenz here. Driver of the number 38 machine, chasing him down. Does have the speed coming up through Blanchimont, but can he carry it through here? I do not think so. Just, it was a country of mile between himself and the apex there, so not able to carry out the maximum speed, but Fournier's just going to lock up, coming down into the bus stop. Billy Fletcher also almost losing control there, further back in your picture. But these guys will continue on down towards La Source. We do have a car that did make its way on towards the lane. That's Cedric Finsack. That is unfortunately a couple of laps down in that GT3 field, so not the best of days for the driver of the number 32 right now. But hopefully by the end of this race he can pick up a couple of positions if there is an instant out there.
Oh, and there's the battle battle for P3 there. Sorry, Josh Thompson and Will Tercrua. Apologize, said that wrong. Still learning some of the names. But this was the battle I figured early on we would see come back later on in the race, and it has come alive. And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we saw him pressuring for position. I want to see if he'll go for it again in the next lap or so.
He might just do that, but the thing is, 13 and a 3. Umashima and Katara, they're going at it once again, this time going in towards the La Source hairpin, riding on board with Katara just briefly coming through there. They almost banged doors coming through the exit of the corner. It's going to be an all-out drag race down towards Eau Rouge, but who is going to back out? Who is going to be the chicken in this situation? Neither of them are going to be that, and that has resulted in Umashima making contact and heading his way very quickly into the tire barriers on the top of Eau Rouge. Yeah, Muto's actually going to be able to attempt to get past done here, but the thing is, let's have a look at the replay. See contact through Eau Rouge, and that is what usually happens when a driver does not back out of a side-by-side coming through that particular section of the racetrack. But back towards the live pictures now, we have Josh Thompson and Will Tregurtha there again battling it out for P number 3. So all of a sudden, this race has come alive inside the final 10 minutes of this event. So battle for P number 3 in GT3s is where it's going to be at. And down in towards La Source they will go. Tregurtha, he doesn't have a lot of time to work with. Just 2 or 3 laps to go for these guys, and that will be the end of the event. You see Tregurtha flashing the lights, the universal symbol in racing of get out of my way, but no one ever usually listens to those sorts of, that sort of encouragement. Again, he will just constantly flash the light. We know Tregurtha, we know you want to get by, but the thing is, Josh Thompson's not just going to move over.
No, he's not, and he's been defending that position all race long. And I mean, Tregurtha's just sitting there fighting for it tooth and nail, and it's going to be fireworks, I think, all the way to the finish line.
It is 6 minutes to go for these guys in this particular battle. And,
well, while we were watching GT3, GTE was very, very lively. Alana was able to move up 2 spots because of the incident earlier with the 4 GTs. Muto's been chasing him down as well, and they actually got really close together coming through the final chicane.
They did indeed. Rico Alatalo. If we get those biggest movers up on screen for you now, at least for these GTE cars, we'll actually get to see that Rico Alatalo is up 8 positions on his qualifying time right now. So we'll try to get that one. There we go. Up 7 positions, excuse me, over his qualifying position. The biggest mover, or one of the biggest movers inside the top 5 there of your GTE field. Bigger mover though is Thomas Gibson, up 9 positions of his, off his qualifying, his grid position. Excuse me. I'm just absolutely horrible this race. I do excuse me, but Muto here has the run over Rico Alatalo down towards Lecombe and gestures towards the inside. Does he commit to the move? He does not commit to the move, and Alatalo able to keep himself ahead in his Ferrari, at least just for now. Ooh, I just saw a moment on my screen there. Will Tregurtha pushing very, very wide, coming through Blanchimont. Will actually close it up back on the brakes through the bus stop. So Tregurtha maybe taking a few liberties with the track limits. Maybe he does have some instant points left over that he can use right in the dying moments of this race. These guys, they can't go over 17 incidents, and it's very easy to pick them up here at Spa. So the fact that Tregurtha has some to spare is very, very surprising, but he's going to take every advantage he can get to get himself onto that podium.
Well, I mean, he's pushing really hard on the brakes, but, I mean, that's kind of the thing he's been struggling with the entire race. He's good on the brakes, but he's losing all the speed on the straightaway that follows.
You see Kazuki Mishima on the lane. Unfortunately, he's not going to come out anytime soon with the damage to the left-hand side of that Ford GT. Tregurtha is
retirement.
Retirement. But the thing is, Tregurtha here, he's just absolutely constantly on the light flash button, going down the Kemmel Straight especially, trying to distract Josh Thompson, but I don't think Thompson is going to be very easily distracted by things like that. The battle has to be done on the track instead of in the mind right now for these guys as they head their way through Ravage. We've got about 3.5 minutes remaining in this one still. Still time for Tregurtha to get his way by, but time that is quickly running out. Go on, Steve.
Going back to GTE, we got Silvestri really trying to make a move here on Katura. Silvestri's on the outside, oh, and teammates are battling for position. That's not something you see too often this late in the race.
Yeah, Corsim Racing having a little bit of intriguing fight there with Thomas Gibson getting himself involved. Is on board with Gibson as Silvestri and Katura. They'll decide to head their way through Eau Rouge, through Radion. Is this going to be a mess? It is going to be a mess. This time Katura is the one that's worse off.
And I was wondering with them going too wide again, it's like, are we going to see a repeat of what we saw earlier? And we did. It's just a little bit later. And, I mean, that's Katura out this time.
Yeah, fine through Eau Rouge, but through Radion, there's just not a lot of space going through that section of racetrack to go too wide. You know, I've only seen it a couple of times doing these broadcasts that people have survived going too wide up through there. Usually it doesn't happen. Usually a driver does have to back off if they want to survive to fight another day. But Katura, he actually get himself back up and going here. So that car not terminally damaged, able to continue on. The same cannot be said, unfortunately, for Kazuki Umeshima, which is the first incident that we saw coming through there. Katura dropping all the way back then to P number 12. I'm just looking at Josh Thompson and Tregurtha battle, because this is going to be the most important battle that we have coming towards the end here, unless something drastic happens either in your GTE field or in your prototype field. But Tregurtha, he's not making he's making slight inroads here, but I don't think it's quite going to be enough. It's a famous Murray Walker thing to say. Passing is, catching is one thing and passing is another, but that's the exact situation that we're seeing here, because Tregurtha can stay on the back of Thompson here, but he just can't find a way by.
You know, it's the same story up in GTE with Alonso and Muto. I mean, it's the same thing. Muto is right there on the rear bumper, constantly looking for a spot to pass, and just is not able to get it done.
Simply not able to right now. Just looking at Johan Hart to see where he is on his lap. He's coming through the first Stavlo, coming through the second Stavlo, or Curva Paul Frere, depending on your preference with corner names. So he's coming up to the final lap here. We've got 50 seconds to go, so he's able to comfortably get himself across the line and start that final lap. So that is going to be the situation here late on in this race. Battle between the 9 and the 20 for in your GTE field. This is position 4 and position number 5, but they are just not quite close enough just yet. One more lap, or it's going to be actually 2 more laps, more like 2 more laps for Sotamuto to get himself by here. So still a little bit of time, few laps to work with. Pass further back, though. GTEs, Coroni versus Kioskalu, side by side through their com, and Coroni's going to come out on top for RaceSpot, or at least for now, because that Hellenic racing car of Kioskalu is very, very aggressive, but he's not able to do anything about that pass that Coroni managed to pull off on him. Down in towards Ravage, getting close, but no cigar between these two drivers right now. So Coroni pretty secure in gaining the position here. Looking back to Tregurtha and Thompson, they are starting their final lap in this event, and Thompson still fairly comfortable ahead, so I think he just has this one, unless Tregurtha has an absolutely monster lap right in the dying moments. But all the advantage right now is with Josh Thompson for P number 3 in GTEs. Johan Hart, he's heading his way through Jackie X corner right now, so just over half a lap to go for him, and he'll cross the line to take the overall race win. The battle between Alatalo and Muto, though, that one is going to be one that's concluded after your leaders have headed their way across the line. So definitely pay attention to this one, because they're going to head their way across the line. But the thing is, this is not going to be the end of the race for them. Muto is not going to be close enough down in towards the bus stop, but he has one more lap to work with, because they haven't got laps just yet by Johan Hart. That won't get lapped before the end of the race, so their battle will continue as Hart heads his way through Curva Paul Frere. And what a dominant performance once again it has been from the Race Clutch driver. He had an easy win last time out at Montreal. He's had a little bit more of a difficult win this time out at Spa, being challenged by Kim Salverson in that first stint, but just a bus stop to go, and Johan Hart can pick up yet another win here in the IMSA Online Sports Car Championship. Checkered flag out for Johan Hart. He'll take the race win for Race Clutch in Daytona Prototypes. The overall race win going to him as well. Kim Salverson will head his way across the line. And if you're wondering how that battle between Thompson and Tregurtha is going, it's going all Thompson's way right now. He leads that battle down through the Blanchimont corner right now, but all eyes towards Alex Simonich. Emphatic race win last time out with passing two cars in the final chicane. He'll take the race win yet again, this time in GT3s. Simonich finishing P number 1. Van Gnechelen will head his way across the line to finish P number 2, and now the only field we're waiting for is that GTE field. Kei Kashube leading the way by quite a margin, about 6 seconds right now, so he seems fairly comfortable. We still got that battle between Alatalo and Muto, though. That's getting just closer and closer, but Muto not able to do anything through the first half of the lap. And now, in this situation, if you're Muto, you have to be thinking, good run out of Curva Paul Frere, setting the move up through Blanchimont and get it done on the brakes down in towards the bus stop. That has to be the plan for the driver of the number 20 right now. He'll sit in the slipstream all the way down towards Blanchimont. That's just what he has to do in this situation. Kashubi will head his way through the bus stop and take the race win for his team, for Williams Esports, heading his way across the line. Here comes Sortamuto looking for the inside through the bus stop, but simply not going to happen. It's going to be Riku Alatalo coming away with P number 4 by a couple of tenths of a second right at the line. But these battles aren't quite done just yet. We have a couple of close ones heading their way across the line. Coroni gets one over Kioskalu. We're waiting for Scott Brazier and the driver Peter Similek, as Brazier will head his way across the line. Similek will do so as well, and unfortunately I do see someone off there through the bus stop. That's Marco Barbranera, who's had a horrible moment there in the final lap of this race, or rather on his cooldown lap I should say, just headed his way into the barriers there. But very well done to your class winners in this race, Johan Hart, Kei Kashube and Alex Simonich for prototypes, for GTEs and GT3s. Looking at the overall race results, though, Johan Hart will take the race win over Kim Salverson. 5 seconds separate those two drivers. Billy Fletcher getting himself onto that final step of the podium over Marco Lenz. We've got Bertrand Fournier there, P number 5. P number 6 goes to Zachary Levey. P number 7, Juan Shohuka. We've got Marco Barbranera finishing 8th, dead last in that prototype field. Then we're having a look back to your GTE field. Kei Kashube wins for Williams Esports, 6.5 seconds over Dan Skrabowski. Benjamin Gonzalez there rounds out your podium positions. Rico Alatalo, fantastic effort for him for, climbing all the way through that mid-pack, getting himself up into P number 4. Sotamuto tried to make the overtake in the final moments, but has to settle for P number 5. Thomas Gibson, P number 6, with Vincenzo Silvestri 7th. Karoni Kioskulu and Scott Brazier will round out your top 10 in GTEs. And then further back in that field, you got the likes of Similek, Jorge Valls, Kitara, Nespolino, Joel Guez, Kazuki Umeshima, and Bruno Fontalba, and rounding out your 17-car GTE field. And then GT3s. Alex Simonich, once again, coming away with the race win. Didn't have to pass 2 cars in the final corner this time. It was a more comfortable affair with a 3-second advantage over EF Van Genechten. Josh Thompson coming away with the final step of the podium after a late challenge by Will Tregurtha. Ricardo Lamogli, P number 5. Laurent Benzo, got Skinner there. We've got Fontini, Cameron, and Ward rounding out your top 10 in GT3s. And then Cedric Finsack, Wim Stockmans, Jan Poole. We got Rene Penquit and Chris Daines rounding out your entire 40-car field for this event. So the racing is all done. We've only got the post-race show here left to cover. You don't want to miss it. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. It was a good race all round then for round number 7 at Spa-Francorchamps for the IMSA Online Sportscar Championship here. Streaming live on RaceSpotTV and on the iRacing Esports Network. This is the post-race show, and we do have a driver just waiting to get themselves an interview here. It's your P number 2 finisher in LMP1. It is Kim Salverson. And Kim, very, very good race for you today. Able to challenge Johan Harth in that first stint, but just tell us what happened after that. Once that pit stop came, what was what do you think happened there?
This is my first race this week, and so I hadn't tested so much, so I thought I will go a little bit longer and go faster than him, but I met some traffic and I lost a couple of seconds. That was the problem. I got in.
Yeah, it did seem to be the issue. As in those early stages, you were just sitting behind Johan, just trying to maybe gauge where you can make the pass, or was it more of a fuel saving issue for you, just sticking behind in that slipstream and trying to get that advantage in the pit stop, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely, because like I said, I hadn't raced, so I didn't know how the tires will last, and everything felt very slippery. So the safe thing was to stay behind and just feel, because I don't know this driver, but I can see he's pretty good, so I am really satisfied.
Yeah, exactly. Johan Harth is, you know, one of those drivers that are challenging for the championship win with his teammate in Eric Andre. But in terms of the rest of the season now, Kim, you did say that this was your first race in this series. Do you have any intention of racing any of the later rounds in this series as well?
Yeah, but I need some, because I can see it's lots of guys is missing my rating. But the start was funny, because I thought the start was going in downhill and not there, and I heard some crashes.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, sometimes that does happen. But is there anyone you wanna thank before we let you go here, Kim?
Absolutely. I want to say hi to Team Vikings friends, and maybe good night here in Sweden and Norway and Denmark. And thanks to you.
Well, thank you very much, Kim. So that's Kim Salverson there, finishing P2 in your Daytona prototype class. And Stephen, it was a battle that Johan Harth had to deal with, at least in the early stages, but he managed to get the advantage in the pit stop thanks to Kim meeting a little bit of traffic there on his outlaps. But you know, that's sometimes how racing turns out. Sometimes they're just decided on if you get traffic on your in or out laps and in the stop itself as well.
You know, and I remember at the beginning of the race, we were thinking that maybe traffic wouldn't play as much of a role because it is a longer track, because it is a wider circuit. But it turned out that traffic was just as much of an issue, just in a different way than what we were expecting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is just about all we have time for here on RaceSpotTV and on the iRacing Esports Network. That was round number 7 of the IMSA Online Sports Car Championship. I've been Connery Maddock. Joining me, well, at least joined me in the commentary booth today was Stephen Burbidge. Join us next week for more IMSA racing action. Good night.